For Sentinel.com, I'm Ira Winderman with your latest Ask Ira Miami Heat mailbag. Our first question today comes from Bert in Washington, D.C., who says, so let's say Chris Bosh is healthy. He's never been the run-and-gun type of player the Heat now want to run with a Goran Dragic-style offense. Bert points out, remember, the Heat didn't start playing with that fast pace until Bosh and also Dwayne Wade went down near the AllStar break. I would absolutely love to see Bosh back in the Heat uniform, Bert says. But do you think the Heat would pull a trade? Bert, I think this remains an issue of first things first. First see if Chris is deemed healthy enough to return. Then get him on the court during training camp, alongside Goran Dragic and Hassan Whiteside, which really will be the first time you'll have Bosh playing with those two without Dwayne Wade. See if they can play together. See if it makes sense for the three of them to be playing together. If Chris is fine, and it's not an issue with his health, you can always showcase him as a player if you want to make a trade. But I think the way salaries are running right now, you can make an argument. If Chris Bosh can work back to what he previously was, he could fit this roster with this overall skill set and what he might be able to do with Goran and with Hassan. That's why I think training camp in the preseason might be more important to Chris Bosh than any other player on this roster. Our second question comes from Ryan in Port St. Lucie, who asks, do you think Justise Winslow will be an All-Star this year? And second, say Winslow becomes an All-Star. How good are Miami's chances of going deep in the playoffs? Ryan, I think it's a stretch right now. Until Justise shows he has an NBA-level offensive game, not so sure you'll be talking about him as an All-Star. But keep in mind, coaches select the All-Star reserves. And the things that coaches like are facilitating and defending, and Justise does both of those well now, especially for a 20-year-old. I think you're more likely to see someone like Justise in the rookie game as a second-year player this year than as an All-Star. But I do agree, for the Heat to make any noise in the playoffs, Justise Winslow will have to make noise on the court this season, especially if the Heat are also forced to play without Chris Bosh. And our last question comes from Robert in Alexandria, Virginia, who asks, the Heat have a lot of guards in their current roster, and I saw that Mario Chalmers was back on the practice court after his injury. We always saw Rio at his best when he had competition from Mike Bibby or Carlos Arroyo, Norris Cole, or Shabazz Napier. Could Super Mario make a Heat return? Robert, I think that ship has sailed. I think once the Heat matched the offer for Tyler Johnson and brought back Beno Udrih, there simply weren't the minutes there. Remember, among the reasons that Mario was traded to Memphis last season was the thought he might not be able to accept being second or even third string. Well, with Dragic, Tyler Johnson, and Josh Richardson in place, minutes are going to be difficult to find, especially if Dion Waiters also cracks as expected that guard rotation. A player like Beno Udrih seems willing to possibly play a game inactive, on the bench, in a sport coat, maybe something that might be hard for Chalmers at this point in his career, thus last season's trade. Those are today's 3 questions. We'll be back tomorrow with 3 more for SunSentinel.com. I'm Ira Winderman.